and I can say that I am a nerd because in the meaning that I know a lot about one thing and that's change, but I don't know anything about anything else. I don't know anything about leadership, for example. Have no clue about what leadership is. So this is my perspective. I began to work with Magí when we met in a conference, no?
Yeah.
And he was speaking about his work in the university in Catalunya with
Open University.
Yeah, Universidad Oberta de Catalunya, and well, he contracted me for some works there. But then what I remember with most impactful, the first thing I remember that impacted me most is when he was deputy mayor of his city, Sitges, in Catalonia, when he worked with the transformation or the change, yeah, it was a transformation of the local police.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, and that would be another case to study, no?
For other day.
Yeah, and the thing is that I see him as, for me, it's one of the clients I have worked best with, because it's one of the few clients that doesn't expect me to know anything about his business, and that doesn't do anything to control my know-how and my doing. He does his thing, I do my thing, we support each other to do it, but I don't have a clue about his business. No, and that's what, and he doesn't have a clue about when I speak about change, and he doesn't care. No, as long as it moves the organization in the direction that he has envisioned. No, so just so that you say something about yourself, Magí, apart from what I said, I want to say you, when after the work you've been working in the university, you were headhunted to become the IT manager of this company that was
publishers. It's a second one group of publishers in Spanish language. Has books in Spain, but has books in Mexico, in Brazil, in Argentina. It's a big group, and it's a group who needs a very big transformation because the publisher area is an old area with very strong processes, and new this area, the publisher and education, has a very important change about digitalization.
But the thing is that you were contracted you became the IT manager, and you didn't have any mandate to promote change and not change towards the digital business.
Yeah.
But, so the interesting thing, the interesting story is, what did you see in the company that made you take the step to say, I need to take leadership of this?
Yeah, for me, it's a process. At the beginning, I need to make a little change with the IT people, and after I need to make a little change with other departments, and it's a little process who growing up, and at the finish take service to all the company, because if you going in a part, you arrive to the total to resolve the problem, because the problem is not in a part. The problem is in the complete of the company.
Yeah. So the thing is that I remember that when you began to see the need, this was a company that have been existing for 80 years, very successful, no?
Yeah.
But you were one of the first people that saw the need that it would develop the digital business and go from product to services, no? And the thing is that when you called me, I remember that we were walking around in the streets of Madrid thinking, how can we start this when you don't have the mandate to do that? So we decided on three, correct me if I am wrong, we decided that about three strategic lines for this process. One was that your vision was, when I remember when I asked you, what's your vision for the company? Well, if I really dream, it would be that it becomes the Amazon of education for the Spanish-speaking world.
Yeah.
And then I remember I thought, let's go for it. So it was like that, let's go for it. No? And the other thing is that another condition for the beginning was that you were the IT manager without mandate to promote this kind of change. And that, but we were very clear that what we needed to do is to increase the interconnectedness between the people from multiple departments and so on. So that was part of the strategic line. And the third one is, as you don't have a mandate, we need to be like a Trojan horse in the company. Begin to work without being noticed. And we will see when we go out public with the work. So this was the general, the three master lines for the strategy for change. No? So if you want, you can, and well, and then we decided, no, now let's go a little bit to the conceptual part, and this is my part. I will share my screen a little bit before you go in to explain a little bit more of the case.
Eugenio.
But what I have learned is that what the approach we used was very much compatible with both WarmData and the Cynefin model. Regarding what,
can you hold on? Can you see the screen, everyone? You see? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So the thing is that here you have the long and beautiful definition of WarmData that I have understood that Nora Bateson is using. But my approach to WarmData at that point, and still now, but the metaphor that I used was either the Trojan horse or this. So that was what before I knew what WarmData was, that's the metaphor I used. No? And it's how can we increase the conversations and the connectivity in the organization so that the change can disseminate instead of being cascaded or anything other or any other way. So that was my thought. And as I didn't know about the Cynefin models. I hope that you all are more or less acquainted with it. No, but what I had was this, that I understand now. The company was like this, very well structured, with processes that were repeated every year, no, and have been developed during so many decades that they knew when they needed to do campaigns, when the new books needed to be edited and written, when they needed to go to press, when they would be sold to the schools, etc., etc. So this is the metaphor that I used.
You know how England likes to call some of its intersections circuses, and it doesn't make any sense? Well, here's one roundabout that actually deserves the title, even if it doesn't get it. Your first thought upon seeing Swindon's magic roundabout might be, man, the Brits are really off their rockers.
In the Cynefin model,
which is actually 7 roundabouts in one.
In the Cynefin model, this is a complicated system in which there are very well, lots of structured processes which you need to be more or less expert to be able to explain, even if you don't need to be an expert to navigate.
But they do
No?
have the option to use different routes to get to the same exit in order to avoid traffic. It may look chaotic, but it's actually pretty efficient because it means less fighting for space. You just point your vehicle toward where you want to go, yield to cars already in the midst of the magic, then Brexit on the other.
But the thing is that in order to move the company in the direction from product to service and from paper to services in the cloud, what we understood it was that we need, and now I am using the Cynefin's language that I didn't have at that point, no? To do lots of experiments, safe to fail experiments, that gave the participants the experience of a different way of working, solving issues of their own, that they were concerned about. And this is the metaphor.
It's important that you also look at the people crossing, huh? Don't miss that, please.
So you see, of course, you don't want the organization, the whole organization, to move into this in this direction at the same time, because then what you create is chaos. But what we wanted to do is how can we create loops, like for example, project periods, project loops, we call them, no? In which it was possible to work not from established processes, but by allowing people to follow their interest. No? And let's see what kind of organization emerges from that. And at some point, we would arrive to a tipping point in what the company would need to formalize a little bit more of this work. But we were warming around, being Trojan horses, you know? So that was the idea. It wasn't about moving the company to become like this, like the crossing in Addis Ababa, but how can we do experiments that solve real problems that the company and people in the company perceive as such, but working in a way that is completely different, no? Across silos, across specialties, with people from different. And we, as Magí didn't have the mandate, we needed to be very careful about how to do that. No, for example, where do I want to go now to speak? So we decided that we would. The conceptual part, when we were walking around, I remember once in a bar, Magí and me thinking about, well, this strategy and this way of thinking about change, how do we implement it? How do we take steps? No, sometimes we called it sprints, but it wasn't right, so we settled for loops. So the concept of how to design its loop, that it was project periods of 8 months, 6 to 8 months, it was like this. Here you have who would participate, and he was, who do we want to entangle us with? Which parts of the organization or segments of clients do we want to invite to the different loops to create this critical mass for transformation? No, so we didn't follow this path, no, but this was more the conceptual way of thinking. How do we think for next loop, next step, no? And now, Magí, I invite you go into, I stop sharing my presentation and you can begin to speak about well, about your view as a manager of what we did.
Thank you, Eugenio. I think your metaphor is very interesting because in the first one, you need to see the cars. And in the second one, you need to see the drivers. The more important in the second one metaphor is the driver. And the more important in the first one is the car and the movement the car. And for me, the more important in the publisher company at the beginning is the process, but at the finish is the people. And I like it, your metaphor.
People that have been driving in places like Addis Ababa, they know that they don't only need to look at the car, they also need at the eyes of the people, because it's the only way of predicting where they are going.
Yeah. I show my presentation. It's a little explanation about these 5 years of real experience. Eugenio and I working in these 5 years in different steps, different loops of the experience. The experience to achieve an objective about going from the paper to the digital and going from the product to the service. And it's a very big change for a company, because you make a product, you make a book, you can take, and when you take it, you finish. If you make a service, you take the service and you begin in this moment, because you need taking the services all the time. And when you sold a product, I sold a product and I finish. Oh, my God. Excuse me.
You are in the last slide.
I made the last slide. Excuse me. Wait a minute. Here. Okay. We work 5 years and here you have 5 loops. One loop is one step, one loop of work. And I talking about these loops. One loop has objectives. Eugenio and I working in what is the goal for this loop, what the SIR we want. Has projects who appears from the interest of the people is very important. In the loop, there are the interests of the people. I have an idea. I want to make projects about this, but the idea is very big, and people finding his interest in this big idea to develop the loop. And at the same time, it's very important the loop has a party, because people want to connect with people, and people wants talking with people, people wants connection, and you use the party to engage the people to the activity. It's very important connecting the party and the activity. The activity, the loop is not one day and the party is another day. The party is connected and natural in the activity of the loop. The first loop is in 2015 when I arrived to the publisher company and I talked with Eugenio about what we can make. And in this first loop, we only work with 60 people, the people of IT only. And we're talking in this loop, we're talking about the close projects, the problems of his day by day, the problems about his table, about.
May I explain a little bit about this? So, the important thing here was, as Magí was only the manager of IT, he didn't have mandate to go outside of that environment that he was responsible for. And in our walks, we had a preliminary hypothesis that what we needed to do is to give the people of IT the sense that they could do something about their own situation. So some of the projects that came in this first loop were, as Magí was saying, very close to their own reality. It was about, well, I am not satisfied with how I am sitting or the lighting or things like that, no? But it was like turning around the sense that we are victims. Because with victims, people like from IT that perceive themselves as victims, as dissatisfied with their work situation, you cannot convert them into change agents. So the first intention was how to make them have the experience of that they are capable of doing something about their own situation. Yeah.
Yes. The second loop is next year in 2016, and the objective of the second loop is change the pressure, because people are very stressed about technology, because the digital world stress the business, and the business going to the IT people to stress it. And we talking to IT people saying, okay, you can change the position. You can go in the fifth column is the first position. You can go in the first to access the digital world for the company. And you are the more important person to take the digital world in the company.
So may I say something about this? Not everybody outside Spain, and many Spaniards don't know what the fifth column is. And the fifth column is during the Spanish Civil War, there were 4 columns of Franco troops attacking Madrid. But inside Madrid, there was what they call the fifth column. All the people that were that agreed, that were of the party of Franco, and that were working from within against the Republic. And that's the metaphor of the fifth column. So, well, so remember that the origin, the starting point for Magí was no mandate to do any change process. But in our walks after being in the coffee machine, having done the first loop of projects with the coffee machine, we have already changed a little bit the mindset of the IT people. But we began to see we need another hypothesis about what's going on that connects the IT people with the rest of the company. And the hypothesis we got was the company feels victim of the technology changes in the environment, and the IT people feel that they are victims of the company. So what we are going to do is, let's do something to give the IT people the sense that they are not victims, but they are the fifth column. They are the allies of the technological changes outside in the market, within the company, and that they are the change agents. So for this second loop, Magí invited apart from the 60 IT people, also some very selected managers from other business units or other departments. And that was the beginning of the entanglement, or the beginning of the increasing the interrelationships. And the idea was to increase the power of this fifth column was, let's demonstrate to this department that they were editorial and services, no? Editorial and?
Editorial and commercial services. And
commercial services, no? Because Magí identified that they were those that had the most problems, and that they perceived as caused by technology. So you see, the trick was to say, we as IT department are going to help you solve the problems that you are frustrated about, that we are causing you. So that was the trick, to create more goodwill within some selected people within the company, outside of the IT department. Yeah.
At the finish of this loop, we can achieve another level.
Yes.
This other level is
Stop
in...
you, Magí, sorry to interrupt, because you had a great story from the previous loop, something that you mentioned when we were preparing this session about the perception of technology and how people used it on their day-to-day, but they didn't want to use it. Can you share a little bit?
No, it's in this loop.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. No problem, because in this loop appears people of different departments.
Hey, they don't appear, you invite them.
But they don't appear.
No.
We invited, yes, we invited people of different departments. And in this loop, people arrive, and some people say, no, I don't like for the publisher business, I don't like the digital world, because the digital world is not nearly the people, is not fresh, a book is better. And I ask, yes, and you are using Facebook? Yes, I'm using Facebook and Instagram, and I send videos to my family. Oh my God, if you has a good relationship with the digital world, you need transform your good relationship to the digital business. And this is the idea of this loop. In this loop, we put the objective solving clients' problems, because the client is the common point from IT to other departments. All of departments can going to talking about the client, and the client is the natural point of connection, natural point to create conversation.
The thing is that in this, the launching, so every loop was launched with an event, a 2 days event, no?
Yeah.
With all the people that Magí wanted to be, should be involved, they were invited. So in the first one was 60 people. In the first loop, it was 60 people, only IT people. In the second was 60 people with 60 IT people with very selected managers from these two departments, from editorial and commercial. And in the third one, there were 120 people.
Yeah.
No, 120 people working on what issues do you perceive that are frustrating the clients most because of technology.
Yeah.
So that was the trick, always taking responsibility, even if it was not true, but always taking responsibility for, we want to solve the troubles that technology is causing to the clients with your help, and problems that the client communicates to you, and when you speak with the clients, they are frustrated about it, so they become a problem of you, whatever department you are in, no? Yeah. So the idea was, how can we create alliances with other business units, solving their problems with clients, no?
And this is the third loop. In the fourth loop, we open the invitation to all the teams of the company. And we make this work without an official
mandate.
And in the middle of this activity appears the president. And the president came to me and says, oh, I have 30 minutes and I came to your meeting. My meeting is 1 hour in a car from Madrid. And I have a minute and I came to the meeting to see the real.
So you see our strategy of warming around, we had planned after this fourth loop after the launching of this fourth loop, we had planned that Magí would ask officially for permission to continue with this. Yeah. But we were surprised because the chairman of the board appeared in the middle of the meeting when we were with 220 people, not 200 people, no? 200 people in Toledo. So it's 100 plus kilometers south of Madrid, no? And he appears unannounced. And when the door opened, I remember that Magí and me looked at each other and said, holy cow, what's going on now, no? So, but he stayed for a couple of hours, and when he left, we had the best ally we could have.
And we're talking with not importance. We say, no, it's a little meeting, and the president says me, it's not a little, huh? But you need talking without importance, because the idea is very strong and it's very heavy, but you need talking about this with not importance words and with not important. And this is in this fourth loop, we try to put people of Latam, people of Mexico, people of Brazil, people of Colombia. And we have problems, not in the meeting, because the meeting going very well, but we have problems to maintain the loop tension in all the year about the projects and about the interrelation of the people.
Yeah. So we didn't succeed with expanding this movement to Latin America, the Latin American subsidiary companies. It didn't work. So can we go to the fifth?
I'm going to the fifth. The fifth is the last one. Is an official meeting, open the president and the CEO, and we show the methodology of innovation of the company, and we make a very big change for the company, because in this moment appears a model of innovation, appears a lines of connection of different departments, and all is working slowly to arrive to this meeting.
Yeah. And the thing is that in the fourth loop, we had 200 people. In this loop, we expanded to 240, no more, and we couldn't have more people in the room because the venue and the hotel where we were, it was the biggest place we could find, no? To have 240 people in the same room, no? And the thing is that at some point, so this is interesting, because this was the first year during 2018. It was the first year that the paper business went into the red numbers, the first time in 80 years, no? And the digital business went into the black numbers.
Yeah.
So you see the tension within the company escalated between the people that were for the transformation and the people that wanted to go back to the paper, well, to go back to kill the business, the digital transformation, because the idea they had was that their own digital business was cannibalizing the paper business. No? So that is interesting, because the launch of this loop would have been in April 2019, and the CEO, when he saw the numbers for 2018, wanted to stop this process. But at some moment, I don't know how Magí did it, it convinced him to do it. It was in June. Huh?
Yeah.
And thank God that we did this last loop. The company was pandemic ready.
Yeah.
Because if without all this process, the company would have been, well, not bankrupt, but it had been big trouble with only paper products.
Yeah.
No?
Sure.
So,
and the final loop, we cannot execute them. We cannot make it because pandemic appears, the virus, and the process is breaked here. But we have all the plans to begin another loop about clients, and this is for us the final loop, because you put 100 clients and 250 people of the company making common projects. And for us, this is a very interesting experience who we can not execute it.
So, thank you, Magí. Can you stop sharing your?
Yeah.
Okay. So, stop.
Yeah.
Or can you stop the share? Yeah, thank you. Okay, this is the manager's version of the change process. I find it very, very interesting, and I am so happy that now I have gotten through the Cynefin, thank you to Dave Snowden, and the WarmData, a conceptual framework to understand everything at a much more meta level than I had been possible to do before. I see that there are some questions.
There is one question from Stefan. Stefan, if you go ahead, we're so few.
We have so many, so you can ask.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Eugenio and Maggie, for this exceptional case. It's really exciting. And you were so much aligned with the process itself that you were well prepared for the pandemic. So exciting.
We didn't plan it.
No, of course not. But my question was for the current loop, inviting the clients, now enlarging your circle. Why wouldn't you apply all the digital lessons learned and processes internally now externally? So I don't see a hurdle to stop the process. I see a benefit from what all the lessons learned from the past. You could have just extended the clients digitally. So why didn't you?
Magí.
I'm not sure if I understand very well the question.
Si quieres, dímelo en español y yo traduzco.
No, but I think we resolve. We see several problems in the first loops, like you stay helping the people all the year, maintaining the tension, and this is the question who we need to put in the loop of clients. You need to put people moderating, who are prepared, who has an well formed, and this is the.
Well, I have another hypothesis on why it wasn't possible, no? Because with the pandemic, the automatic reaction of the management in the company is to go back to paper. It's to emphasize paper mostly, no? They don't want to kill the digital part, but and that reaction was reinforced by something that Magí is very surprised about, and me too, no? And it's that the clients also wanted more paper books
Yeah.
with the pandemic, and that's paradoxical. No?
Yeah, because the people going to his basis services.
Yeah, they want to go back to basic, you know. So that's a very interesting thing, no? So so the company is going very well, both in paper and in the digital business now, no? So that's very interesting. But the movement towards digital transformation, there was not the enough commitment from management to continue with it. And while we were working underground like the worms, no? So, well, they didn't see that it would have any consequences for the business. There's some, well, it costs a lot, but it doesn't matter, no? So, but the thing is that when the pandemics came, another thing, Magí went to a startup owned by this company, a startup that is also in the educational business and only digital, no? It's applications for parents that have their children at home during the confinement, no? So Magí is not in the company anymore. And that's also a change, no? Another change was that I moved from Spain to Sweden, so I wasn't there either. So there are several things that impacted the whole momentum. But I suppose if Magí had stayed in the company, if he had had more enthusiastic mandate from the company, if they had made him director of digital business that they said no to doing, top management said no, we don't want you as director of the digital business, no? So if those circumstances had happened, then I think that we would have found a way of continuing with the clients digitally, maybe not in the same pace, maybe taking another route, but we would have found a way. But there were many circumstances that made it impossible to go on, at least not with us two. There is a question here. Excuse me,
another
Magí.
question, yes, from Marie. Would you like to?
Marie, asks, how did this affect the budget process for IT during the period 2015 to 2019?
Oh, the budget process of IT is in his plan.
¿En el plan de quién?
No, in the plan of economical and evolution of the budget. And we put this together, not changing the budget in the same level. For make this type of projects, you don't need many money, because these projects, the projects of, for example, we make a project to improve the methods of taking services to the clients using WhatsApp, for example. This is not a very cost project. It's a project difficult for the people, because the people who are serving the client by phone now change to serving the client by WhatsApp. And for the people, it's a very big change. But for the budget, it's not a very big change.
One of the important things to understand is that the constraints that Magí put around about the projects that would be approved, no? And one of them was that nobody would get extra payment or be relieved from their ordinary tasks.
Eugenio, I have a suggestion here, because I know you have this on the spreadsheet, and that could bring clarity to the participants. This, you were very clear on the conditions for enabling this change to happen.
So let's see if I can share.
And that's something that, at least in the morning in the session I was participating on, they were talking about enabling conditions for success versus controlling outcomes. And in this case, they were just really doing that, enabling by defining what are the constraints that they should be respected.
So the thing is that in order to move a company in this direction, in the direction of, in order to do experiments like these loops that allow people to follow their own interest, you cannot just, sorry, I stopped sharing instead of just coming out from the video. Sorry. You need to put some kind, and why can't I leave now this, so you need to put some kind of constraints around the projects, no? And the projects, constraints for project loops or safe to fail experiments, it was 10 to 15 projects per loop. And the reason for that was because Magí made the assessment that the organization doesn't have capacity to work more than on 10 to 15 per 6 to 8 months period. That was each loop, no? Another one, that people choose in which projects they want to engage. And the people that are invited to the launch of each loop, to the 2 days event, work during the event from innovation area to project idea to project, how would I say, to the first session of the project team. I will show some pictures about that. To do checkpoints regularly with Magí, with management, no? And the last one, leadership should be distributed but also attributed, because this is, I believe, a mistake that we many times do. We who preach about distributed leadership, they say, but it needs to be attributed to. You need to know who does what, who takes responsibility for what. Because many times when you say only distributed, you say, well, you can do anything, no? So, for example, another way of thinking was that we need to move from the usual way of thinking about change, that you convert change into a task. No, you are the change agent. For example, in this case, Magí, you use the people and organization to move the organization to move to execute the task of change. This might be good for usual operations, but when you want to work like this, what I propose is this instead. You are the change agent, in this case, Magí, and you use tasks to move people and the organization. But what are the tasks that will engage people to try to work in a different way, so that they have the experience that here and now, that a different future is possible, that a different way of working is possible, that solves the problems, the tasks that they have now. You know? So it's to change the way of thinking. So if I go to explain for you, to show you the last 2 days, the 2019 session, the launch of the loop for 2019, working with the whole company. You see, this is the whole room as it was. Here we have a plenary part, and here we have small circles of chairs with some, with the result of the pre-work that had been done about what are the areas in which we want to innovate. This is another way, and some of the areas in which we want to innovate are, for example, I don't see it here now, no? But for example, can be blockchain. Another one could be social media in educational services. Another could be CX, whatever, no? So, and here you see in the wall is the poster with the innovation model that today we will not have. The innovation process we wanted to test, the prototype we wanted to test during this, and we did, no? So here we have the plenary, and here we have, for example, how to get into the CX world, blockchain, social media, agile meetings, different, no? So this, from there, we have the opening circle with the 240, 250 people. Then the first session was in teams to elaborate project ideas, parting from the different areas that were proposed as areas for innovation. While these people were working on this, we had a training for facilitators of the feedback sessions. And the feedback sessions were also with two main goals. One, to add value to each other project ideas, and two, to increase the entanglement and the interconnectedness between people in the organization. So here you see now the first feedback session, in which there are two teams, one team in the center of the circle, speaking about the work they had done during the morning to develop a preliminary project idea, in front of another group sitting around them just listening. And then they change and they give feedback to each other. And then the second team does the same thing. And they have, with the help of a facilitator that we have trained, me and my team. No? And here they have a second session in teams that elaborate project ideas, and then we go into the second day. Here is more of the same, working on elaborating project ideas and concepts after the having received the feedback from another team. And here you have the opening of the second day, in which what you have a marketplace of projects, project ideas, in which what you have here is all the material they have been working on during the first day. And here you have a short description of each project. You have the marketplace in which people study what are the projects and what's the material and so on. And this is unstructured, no? You give half an hour, 3/4 of an hour for this, and then the sales pitch. The people that have been one of the people that have been working in each project says, well, this project is about this. And you see what we did technically, it was that the moment that that people came up to write their own names in which project they wanted to participate as part of the team, or in which project they wanted to take leadership for. And the moment that there was a team and a leader for the project, then the project went up to the upper. And in the end, what you have is, and the mathematics has worked every year, no? No more than 15 projects are chosen by people in the moment that there's a team and there's a leader, then the project is a go. And we have never had more than 15 projects. And then the last half day of the launching is in project teams. They have their first meeting for the project. How are they going to plan? How are they going to work during the next 6-7 months, etc., etc. No? So this is what the structure of everything, and this is not so expensive. No? I don't know if this answers any question, and this is the closing circle of the launch event. No?
So I think it's good timing because it's almost 3, and this is the time we thought it was good to have the presentation. Marija had a question, but now is the time where we are going to send you in breakout groups. So if you think it's relevant for now, please go ahead. If you think you can wait for afterwards.
We are 11 people, so I think that we can have the conversation.
We don't need to go in breakouts.
No, we can have the conversation in the plenary. Any questions, any associations, and any feedback, because, you know, when we were working on this, at least during the first 4 years, I had no clue about the Cynefin model or the WarmData and so on. So if you have any feedback and anything, any associations you have, so that we also learn, please feel free, no?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for a very interesting presentation. My question, what was going on in my head now was that normally this process was coming from sort of underside, sort of going up. But the normal situation is that, you know, key executives decide, now we're going to do this digitalization, and it has to go like this. Now, with that situation, how would that process look? Would it be different, or would you still use those elements that you have? Maybe it's very difficult to answer, but I was having that in my mind when I heard your presentation, that it's normally going from top down.
Yeah.
But can you still use those sort of?
So Magí, what would you have done if you had been the CEO? The microphone.
I
Yes.
think if you work in top down, you can work more quickly, I think. If you working down top, you need more years to create people who are engaged in your ideas and in your vision of change. Because in the 4 year, when arrived the president cannot say nothing because there are 100 people of his company talking about the digitalization, and they only can help the process. If you go in from the top to down, I think you need in the similar process, because you need people who believe in the project, believe in the change, and you need people who are interested, who has personal interest in the change of the company. And this process is not top down. To create personal interest, people who are personally interested in the change of the company is from the down to the top.
And I have another take. By the thing is that you need to be a special person like Magí or something like that, even if you are a CEO, because you see, when you are the CEO, you have the overall picture, and I believe that it can be even more difficult for you to accept that you need to begin with small things, no, because you see so much, no, and so I don't think the tendency when you begin from the top is to begin with the big things, no, and I don't say that that's wrong, but it's like they look, so when you are the CEO, most of the time you are looking at, or the top management team, you are looking at the company through a telescope, not through a microscope. No, and the important thing is also, as Dave Snowden said, listen to the weak signals, not the strong signals, and enhance the weak signals for change. No? So if you have a very special person in the CEO position that also can connect with the small things that concern people, then you can use this approach. If not, well, then you invite 200 people to speak about the digital transformation. And we never spoke about digital transformation, not once. We just did it. Never. No? So, more comments, thoughts?
Hello. Some thoughts or just reflections. I'm making some notes for myself here, and I think you have done a fantastic work for doing this change. If you don't have the mandate, and if you're a person within somewhere in the organization, this is a good example to show that it is possible. I meet a lot of people who say, well, I don't have a voice, I don't have the mandate, I don't have the money. But this is a good example to talk about and to say, well, if you want to take the leadership, Eugenio, about what is leadership, you can do big changes, and just scaling it up year by year with more people, because if you do successful things, you are the sugar, and the bees will come to you and they want to participate. And then, of course, you need to have a lot of patience, and it's going to be a lot of setbacks, but it's still going on. So I just would like to give my thoughts to you. It's a very good example from that I can use to hopefully tell the story as well as you do, for people that are in the middle of a big organization and feeling a bit, I don't know what to do. So this is a good example. Thank you for that.
I want to say two things. That the amount of people is how we measure that it has become bigger, created critical. But the important variable is not the amount of people, but the amount of interconnections. That's even more important. But that's what makes, as Nora and Dave were saying before, and Jennifer, and so is the interconnectedness of and interrelatedness among people and business units within the company that makes it possible. No, more than that. And the other thing I want to say, that I want to, after 3 years, 2.5 years, I want to present you Magí and Magí, because Magí is one of the writers of the book that we tried to do your company, for your company to publish, to sell it towards to the schools as a manual for their digital transformations in the schools, but we didn't find support for that. To translate. So Magí is a specialist in digital transformation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And one little question: the success are very important. The success attract the people. If you make a little first loop, but very successful, you have a more group, and you can attract people of different departments. And you need a little examples of success.
Yes.
It's very important.
Yeah. So excuse me, Isi, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just say thank you so much. I love the way you've taken us through the journey. Really, really interesting. And I was just wondering, because it sounds like you're both very natural kind of system thinkers in the sense of convening people and bringing them together. And then you said you discovered the Cynefin framework afterwards, and he's kind of given you this language now on which to reflect back on it. And I was just wondering, with that framework, would you have done anything differently, or has it kind of just given you that language rather than kind of change your approach at all?
I would have been scared shitless. So I am very happy I didn't have it. Yeah, because I think I would have understood much more what I was working with. No, so I would have been more afraid. Yeah. But the thing is that I had other references that are very compatible, no, with so that the Cynefin model has just expanded my thinking, broadened it, not so much made me a better practitioner. Just I understand better what I'm doing, no. And for Magí, well, I think that when we were preparing this workshop, it was the first time you heard about the Cynefin model and complexity and things like that.
Yeah.
So, Magí is in doing his thing.
I do it.
That's what he knows. No? And so it's
In connection to the Cynefin model, as I was supporting, helping them to prepare the story and bringing the eyes of the participants, no? One of the things they were sharing with me is the way they came to the ideas, the ideation of each of the loops, no? What were the things that they were going to do? And one thing that came up from the outsider point of view very clearly is that they were a lot of times in the aphoria, in the unknown space. You know, in the Cynefin model, there is this kind of hole in the middle where you don't know, and you stay there and you just wait for something to come up. So they did that by taking walks. Other time they told me they took a horse ride. So it was like having lunch, and so being in a space that was different from workspace. Maybe you want to add something more, but that kind of struck me when they were telling me about the story.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time just making meaning about what's the next step, how do we do it, but always following the same principles. Who do we need to increase relationship with and engage with to prove that technology is good for the business and solves problems, current problems, not only in the future business, that solves current problems, no? And that was not always a very easy process, no? Because sometimes, well, we had also, well, we had, Magí had, she couldn't come today, but Magí had a wonderful assistant that brought us down to earth, asking, are you really sure? No, are you really sure that you want to do this? So she was wonderful, but
Maricruz, the assistant, is very important in the process because knows perfectly all the company and says me, you invite these people, and after next year, all the people came with this. And this information I don't have because I'm new in the company. I have 1 year, 5 years, but Maricruz knows the company perfectly.
So.
But just say something about WarmData. How did you incorporate that? I didn't really understand how that was incorporated into the process.
Well, it's less evident, no? But one of the biggest principles in WarmData is to increase the connectivity or the connectiveness within the system and within the organization, because it increases its resilience, no? So we didn't have WarmData labs, because one thing is WarmData and another thing is WarmData labs. WarmData labs is a method for making meetings and reunions and engaging people in conversation. And WarmData is a concept about how systems are interconnected and so on. So we didn't use WarmData labs, but we use WarmData in the sense that we knew that we needed to work underground like the worms, no? Making the ground more fertile by opening for conversations about what matters to people, not about the big things that many times WarmData labs speak, but the small things. No, that's my way of saying that I see the connection between WarmData, the way we worked, no? But you see, Nora Bateson says all the time, don't expect me to do WarmData labs to achieve any results. It's not about achieving results. It's about increasing the connectivity of the system, no? And here we needed to work on to work results. So I would love to have a conversation with Nora about this, but I haven't had it.
So there are a couple of questions from Marie in the chat. saying, how did this journey change the IT employees' profession and skills? Maybe Magí, you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I think these journeys change the IT skills, the IT professional skills. It's a practice of change your connection and your relationships in the projects, in the real projects and in the structural projects. If you make a project with your interests, with other people of other departments, and if you make a practice of escucha activa, I don't know in English, escucha.
Active listening.
Active listening. If you make a practice of active listening, you change your work because you are practicing another, and it's very important. The example of the other organization of projects can be, and this other organization of projects is this example. And people is automatically, if the people understand, oh, I can make this type of projects, yes. I can change this in my projects, yes. And it's automatically. The skills are changing because they see the change.
And there's another development that is very important, and is that IT people in many places work in a silo or in their own bubble, and they don't know and they don't care about the business. And just by coming close to the business, they understand that what they do has impact in the numbers, in the bottom line. And the other way around, people from other departments understand the need that technology is both a source of revenue and of solutions and so on, not only a source of problems, no? And that changes completely the mentality of the whole company and of the individuals, no? And another thing is that there were many people in the IT department that they were really, really nerds about some things, some technology issues, about virtual reality and things, but in their free time, and they never thought about bringing that competence to the work, to their work. And when the door opened, you could see them saying, well, could we use virtual reality to address this client issue? No? That increases the competence not only of individuals, but of the whole department and the whole company.
There is another question from Marie. Can you describe how this journey changed the governance system or model in the company during the years?
At the first year, all the leaders of the company has a tie. It's a tie in English?
Tie.
Corbata?
A tie.
Tie has a tie. And in the last year, no people has a tie. Yeah, I think it's important change. It is important change. And there are many other changes because President decide talking with the people and explain his vision of the company. And when I arrived, President don't explain his vision of the company. And in the last session, President opened the session and says, my vision of the company, I want you help me to, and this is very important for many other questions, but appears with this change.
Well, something about, so that you understand a little bit more of the context, no? This company had been 80 years in the market, and it's owned by an order of monks that own also a lots of schools. No? So you can imagine when you try to introduce this kind of transformation in a church-owned company that has very clear Christian values. So you have to understand also that frame of mind, no? That tradition is very important, and that there are some parts of the business that cannot be touched. Like, for example, the publishing of religious books, it was a no-go. That's taboo. You can't touch that, no? Because that is very traditional, very old, in Bible paper and things like that, no? So you have to understand the context, no? On the other hand, this very traditional way of thinking is permeated by a very strong humanistic view, no? So when you demonstrate that people become more happy, then you can also touch their Christian values, no?
Sure.
And you can tell them, but you see, what we are doing here is in accordance with the values of the foundation that is owner of the company, no? So it's not only about business, no?
Thank you.
Mm.
I'm curious for, because I captured a bit along the way, and I'm not that I want to jump to action, but more to conclusion. And I'm curious to hear from everyone who took part as a participant, not as a contributor. Is there anything you are going to do differently or reassess or look up or anything after what this session informed? And I'm curious to hear, and I will take note a bit lightweight way.
Well, I can start. If I can, I would love to tell this story to my network whenever I work, when I meet people within the organizations that are kind of, how do you say, uppgivna, hjälp mig. What is the
Given up.
Given up, yeah, because I meet them a lot, and then I can, if I am allowed to, I can tell this story because it's a very, very good story.
Magí, it's your story, not mine. Is it okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Marie is asking if it's okay for her to speak about this case.
Yes, you can speak about this case. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I like it, the case, and I think the story is open. This history has many curious moments and curious questions. We have two buildings. One building is Boadilla, and one building is Turina. And in the second loop, we take the number of we take a title for the loop. The title is Turilla, because it's the union of Boadilla and Turina, two buildings going together. And there are many questions curious to write about because it's a people.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other actions, or not actions, but things this session informed.
I take with me the need to, have the safe to fail environment, and the need to try small things and get success and get people to mobilize around that. I think that is very important. But I also take with me the fact that I think Magí had a very important role, and your energy and drive, I think, was very key to the success. And I think that's fantastic. And I think you always need to look for, those people also within organizations.
I'm also inspired by, especially by the fact that you started to work without a mandate. And I think that's something I've been struggling with, that you have an unclear mandate. You have to somewhat create your own mandate and then try to see how far can you go, how much can you challenge the system from within, and so on. So I think this was a very inspiring case that shows that it's possible to do quite large transformations. Of course, I think you had a mandate at the end, but you started with not such a big mandate, and that's a great lesson, I think, that I will tell people in my network.
Mm.
I take with me the insight that wherever you are, even without any mandate, there's always something you can start with, and just look at where people feel like a victim and turn them into change agents. That was very inspiring. Thank you a lot.
Anybody else? Okay, Anya, have you been drawing or have you been?
Yeah, I can share that slide.
Yes,
I know
please.
I'm not drawing. So my approach is I always empathetically fail over and over again. I always want people to co-create in these sessions.
Eugenio, I have a little problem in home, and I need to finish the.
So goodbye and thank you very much, Magí.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah, so I'm setting up canvases or frameworks for people to interact with, to document and harvest. And I can't just stay away from the canvas. So I'm putting a link in here. So please, if anything is still missing, please do add. So I took your what was shared so far and put it there. So it's not exactly a painting, but it's more, I sorted it following a ladder of interference, starting from the what. So what facts did you share? What did I observe? What was shared about observations? That's the layer down there. Then in the middle is what seems to be important, some hypotheses I thought I heard. And then the last bit right below the headline is now what are we taking with it? And I heard some principles like have patience, do your thing, begin with small things. And I captured some of the of what participants of this session said, what they take away with them. Wow. And it's dynamically incomplete.
Well, as our presentation is also dynamically incomplete.
Yeah.
So, yeah. One of the principles from that Dave Snowden speaks about very often is that the only possible representation of a system is the system itself. So the only possible representation of this workshop is the workshop itself.
Yeah, and then you start to become very philosophical of how you perceive that and what creates a reality and where does it start the reality and so forth. Yeah.
So I am very thankful that you came here, and well, I'm very happy that you learned and thought that it was useful and got inspired and so on. So thank you very much. And I really, I am also impressed how Magí, with his English, he can anyhow convey the enthusiasm, the conviction, the passion, even sometimes without understanding really what he's saying. So I hope that I can work with him again. Really. And I hope if you are external consultants, that you get clients like him. I wish you that too. Yeah.
Well,
So thank you. And thank you, Marisa.
No, nothing. It's
Yes,
a
yeah,
pleasure.
nothing.
Mhm.
With, yeah, what is it? I am. So.
So thank you all. We tried to put the Prezi in the Kiko chat, but it just didn't work, the connection. So somewhere along the chat, I posted the link. So maybe you want to, or I can do it again.
I have it here. I can post it again.
No, I have just done it because it was the last thing. So I hope that you can go in from your own computers. It's just in Kiko chat. It didn't work out. So Annie, I will try to do what you said. Go back to the
just in text, some really up underneath the headline like Prezi in connection with the session. Go here and then a link.
Yeah,
like really like a headline, so that it's one of the first thing people see.
The only thing I want to say about the Prezi is that I never use any path in Prezi. I never, so that you can click, I just zoom in and zoom out depending of what I want to show. So you need to do that yourself.
Yeah, it's nice. It's better like that, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like how my brain works.
Exploratory.
Yeah.